I'd like to begin by asking Marshall County Sheriff James Gannon to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you're able to, please stand up, place your hand over your heart as we recite 31 words. 31 words that pledge allegiance to that flag and the United States of America, the greatest country on earth. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to start from my right, and please introduce yourself and who you represent here tonight. Yes.
So my name is Tracy Capicelli. I'm the director of the New Jersey Statewide Student Support Services Program for Morris and Sussex counties, which is a mouthful, from the Mental Health Association.
It's a mouthful.
I'm Stephen Shaw. I am the Deputy Director of the Morris County Board of County Commissioners, formerly known as Freeholders.
Jack Ambrose, Chief of the Patrol Division for the Morris County Sheriff's Office.
Jim Gannon, I'm the Morris County Sheriff.
Jim Davis, the Mayor of the City of Bayonne.
Hanover Township Mayor Tom Ace Gallagher.
Florham Park Mayor Mark Taylor. Morristown Mayor Tim Doherty.
Morris Plains Mayor Jason Carr.
Pastor Vernon Outlaw, Associate Pastor at Elevated Life Church in Whippany.
Okay, Pastor, if you would you please take the floor?
It's okay if I stand?
Please.
You know, preachers are used to standing.
You can do anything you want in this building, Pastor.
Thank you. What an honor it is. I bring welcome from our senior pastor, Don Rosa, Elevated Life Church, and it's just an amazing honor to have the mayor ask me to come and share a word of prayer and just a word regarding this evening. I recently shared a message that had as its theme the whole notion of marching. And as I thought about what's going to go on here tonight, what we're going to learn about, the imagery really sort of struck home with me, and I want to just take you there with the thought. The thing about marching is that you start in a place based on sort of circumstances as a group intending to go to a destination. And when you think about what's going on here tonight, we're starting in the place. The place that we're starting is in that place where everyone who is in this room has experienced the effects of impaired and distracted driving, whether personally, directly in your family through loss, or others that you know, or just reading it, you have a heart for it, you know that it's there. And I think that there's no question that the destination is to get to a place where we're not talking about this way, where loss of life is a thing of the past based on that. Yeah, things happen, but things happen more when people are not paying attention. And the thing that I pointed out about marching at the time is that, you know, even when you're talking about military marching or marching bands or whatever, the marching actually starts with the command to halt and to come to attention. To halt because you have to stop long enough in order to hear directions about where you're going and the instructions, and call to attention because the truth of the matter is, as much as you think you know about the destination, about the goal that you're trying to get to, you really don't know that much. And so in order for people to coordinate, to come together, to get the same cadence, to get in unison, to understand the challenges that you face on the march, you have to halt and come to attention. And so to get to the place, which I think is the place where we all want to go, where we say forward march, there need to be evenings like this evening where, because of personal experience, disaster, the information and years of going through trying to make a difference in this area is going to cause all of us to get in cadence, to get in unison, to get in the same direction so that the goal that we're looking to get to, we can actually get there. And so my prayer this evening is that we would be open, that we would pay attention, that we'd all learn, and that collectively there could even be a base from here to see real change take place in this area. Let's pray. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you. I thank you so much, Lord, for a people committed, not just to a cause, Lord, but committed to an area of life that has affected all of us. I thank you for each and every person that you've brought here this evening, talented folks, folks with commitment, folks with ideas about how to get things accomplished, and for their desire to see us all get to the desired end. Thank you that you are the one that declares that the end of the thing is better than the beginning. Where we've started in this is not where our destination will be. And you also are the one who says that you will bring to completion the good work that you've begun. I thank you that you would bless each and every person in this room and all of those that are engaged in this effort. Lord, that the good work that they've begun, Lord, by your Spirit and by the energy that you will put in each and every one, that the work will be completed and that we'll be able to look back and see that this was not only a very important night, but that we arrived at the destination, that we're not looking at the kind of carnage that we've looked at before. We thank you, bless you for what you're going to do in and through this evening. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Before I go through my prepared opening comment, and then I have the honor of introducing Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis, I'd like to say that also with us tonight is Sergeant Rich Kilmer, Morris County Prosecutor Robert Carroll, Pam O'Donnell, and retired Police Chief of Bayonne PD, Ralph Cheyenne. That completes our panel. The majority of things in our lives are almost designed to allow for a certain percentage of failure. And from that failure, there is usually the opportunity to learn, become more aware of the behavior that led us to fail or fall short. In many of these cases, we will hopefully learn and therefore be much less likely to repeat that failure or the behavior that led us to that failure or serious lapse in judgment. However, there are unfortunately situations, actions, and behaviors in life where we do not get the opportunity to get a second chance or get the do-over. And that is what we believe the takeaway of tonight's presentation will be. With this program, we believe it will be made abundantly clear how quickly lives can change, how families can be altered or destroyed forever in a split second, how quickly a seemingly innocent lapse in judgment, or in some cases not such an innocent lapse in judgment, can change everything forever. When bad behavior, mistakes, and serious lapses in judgment hurt or kill beautiful people, there is not an opportunity to hit reset, and from there, explain how bad you feel or the lesson you may have learned by your horrific act. The damage is done. Many lives will never be the same or even close to the same. You will see tonight and hear firsthand how a beautiful family was torn apart due to one person's actions. Pam, we are confident that we have shown you through our actions, and not just words, that your team has become much stronger by allowing us to become part of it. And please know, we are here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And God, please bless you and thank you for everything you're doing.
You sure about that 24/7?
My joke is I'm 20 hours a day. If you want me 12 a.m. to 4 a.m., you got to call Sheila's cell phone. Thank you very much again, and I want to say how much we appreciate our Bayonne team coming out and sharing this important message with us. So it is now my honor, on behalf of our group and our team here, to introduce Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis, again, along with this incredible team from Bayonne, New Jersey. Ladies and gentlemen, Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis. Yeah, as long as you want.
Okay, because it says introduction of speaker.
You put that in there.
All right, so I'm just going to stand up because I don't know why. If you haven't seen this, this is going to bring you to tears. This is going to break your heart. And the one thing it should do is make you walk away and make you think for the rest of your life. Think about that one time when you're out with your friends and you decide to get in your car after being at a bar or a restaurant or a wedding. Think about reaching for that cell phone because somebody's texting you. This will honestly rip your heart out. For you guys, the hockey players, this is why we do it. We do it for you. Everybody makes mistakes in their life. Everybody. We all do. Nobody's perfect. It's what you do going forward. But if you make that mistake where you cause this type, there is no going forward. Because that family is never together again. I mean, nothing, this is going to really, I'm telling you right now, I sat through it last year. It was the first time because I never had the nerve to sit through and watch Pam do this. I've known Pam since, we've been friends since we're probably teenagers or younger. I grew up with her older sister, so that means I'm older than Pam.
Yes. Much older.
But just look what happened recently with Johnny Gaudreau and his brother. And now we got a guy who's trying to say that it was their fault.
Right.
Their fault that he left the bar. Their fault that he was impatient and tried to pass a car on the shoulder where they were riding their bikes. It's the most ludicrous thing. I was a police officer for 28 years, retired as a captain. That is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard in my life, that you're going to try and blame two people riding a bike because of your inaction and your actions of driving a car drunk. Trust me when I tell you, this is going to hit home, and the more you can spread this, and if you have classes, you have church groups, that we could come and do this, we will do it. Pam, I got to introduce Pam in a little while, but this is pretty amazing. It's pretty powerful. So with that being said, it's my honor to introduce my former police chief from Bayonne, Ralph Ciani.
Thank you, Mayor Davis, Mayor Gallagher. Before we begin, I would just like to take a moment to recognize and extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guests on the dais, Mr. Prosecutor Robert Carroll, guests, and students. Thank you all for being here this evening. We've gathered for an important cause, one that touches us all in different ways, but connects us to our shared humanity. I have the honor of introducing someone whose story is not easy to hear, but one that is absolutely necessary to understand. This woman, whose strength and courage have been tested in ways most of us can scarcely imagine, has experienced an unimaginable loss. In the blink of an eye, her life and the life of her daughter were forever changed. Yet through their grief, she has found a powerful voice to speak out, to raise awareness, and to advocate for the safety of all on our roads. Her and her daughter's journey are a painful one, but it is also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the deep love they will forever share. Please join me in welcoming Pam O'Donnell, who will share their journey. Pam.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. How many of you were here last year? So a couple of you had heard this, and you came again, so I appreciate that. We're going to talk about distracted and impaired driving awareness from a personal perspective, because far too often you'll see it on the news, there's a car crash, and then you never hear what happens. Or 6 months later, you'll see the car crash that happened 6 months ago. The person that caused it is now in prison, or got a plea bargain or probation and is out. But have you ever heard on the news what happens to the families left behind? Do I need the microphone, or can you, okay, okay. No, I didn't think I really ever needed a microphone ever in my life, but, so have any of you ever heard on the news or saw on the news or even read an article about what happened to the family left behind when somebody dies? That's what I do. That's where my presentation is much different from other presentations. So we're going to start with distracted driving from a personal perspective. We are sponsored by the National Road Safety Foundation. I'm so grateful for them. But just a little bit of a backstory, because it'll all come full circle, so it's really not about this. But in 2014, I had brain cancer. I am not supposed to be here. In 2014, I spent the entire year in Bayonne Medical Center fighting for my family of 4. On 4 different occasions, the doctor would call up my husband, Tim, and say, Tim, get you and the 2 girls here, our 2 daughters who were 3 and 4 at the time. Mayor Davis was running in an election at the time, and I was stuffing envelopes from my hospital. I probably didn't stuff them good. And the doctor called my husband and said, get you and your 2 daughters here. She's not going to make it through the night. So on 4 separate occasions in 2014, a doctor told me, I am going to say goodbye to my kids. And we were at peace with that, because I cannot fill my husband's shoes. He was a man like no other, a man for others. Went to prep in Jersey City. Their creed is a man for others, and that truly is what he is. So, miraculously though, I survived the cancer. I'm not lying. There's me radiated, chemoed. That's my Bridie in that picture with the mouth open. Me in my Giants hat. There wasn't a day that went by in 2014 that my husband did not have my 2 daughters outside of that hospital, rooting on their mom. Even if I was too sick, they couldn't. And normally hospitals don't let little kids in the hospital anyway. But when you're dying, they make an exception. So, but there wasn't a day that went by my husband did not have them out there for me. Saying goodbye to my kids. I don't even know who took that picture, but that's one of the most heart-wrenching pictures that I have in my photo album of our life together. Thought it was going to be the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life, but little did I know something harder was going to happen. December 10th of 2014, I got a phone call from my doctor, my oncologist, who is now my best friend. And he said, Pam, pop the champagne. You're cancer-free. And I'm like, what? How does that happen? I died 4 times. You resuscitated me 4 times. How does it happen? He goes, I don't know. You're an anomaly. But just pop the champagne and, all is good. Go on and have a happy life. So as a family of 4, we thought we were going to be there to watch our kids graduate grammar school, prom dates, get their hearts broken by their first boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever they chose. Like, we were going to be there for them. 2015, we renewed our wedding vows twice. My husband wants to get married in a church. We did that. And who better to ask to be our best man? My husband asked my oncologist to be our best man, because he's the one that gave me that chance to marry my husband 3 times, a total of 3 times. Never once did we get divorced. We didn't just divorce and get back together. We got married 3 times. And we made a promise that every year, because of my chances of cancer coming back were very high, we were going to renew our vows every year. So we went through 2015. In August, we went down to Mexico. I wanted to get married in Mexico, my favorite place. We did that. We went on a trip. It was our first and lastly our only trip out of the country as a family of 4. And there's a picture of my daughter Bridget sitting in the infinity pool at the hotel. Her full name was Bridget Mary Ryu O'Donnell. Ryu after the chain of hotels, the Ryu chain of hotels. I did not know that my husband actually put it on a birth certificate because I was so drugged up, but he actually did. But that was in honor of all the people that we met all over the world that I still keep in touch with to this day from the Rio chain of hotels. So there's a picture of her on the infinity pool, and now when I look at it, I look at that picture and she's just looking out at the ocean, and I think, did she know? Did she know that this was going to be the only trip to her namesake hotel? So we came home, Christmas was great, everything was fine, and then February 22nd of 2016 happened. We lived down a one-way street in Bayonne, New Jersey, dead-end street. We can all, my husband, little kids, they kind of rule the house. It's like whatever makes them happy. So my two little girls now are 5 and 6 at this time. Bridget in the purple dress, Allie in the orange dress. That happened to be our wedding renewal in Mexico, my favorite picture. Bridget, of course, with her tongue sticking out. Jimmy, no comments. And so they kind of ruled the roost, and I liked the idea that when we leave in the morning, they would get in my husband's car, and I would have to be behind them in my car going to work because they liked the idea that they would be able to wave through the back window to mommy. And that's what kids do. They thought it was cute. So my husband drives in front of me. I'm right behind him. He makes a right. I make a left. And at 7:45 a.m., that was the last time I had ever seen my whole family of 4 as a happy family of 4. So my daughter, Bridget, blonde hair, blue-eyed, sassy, spunky, wanted to be a cancer-curing singing doctor. She was on her 99th day of school, and I don't know if any of you know, now they do 100 days of school, they make them dress up like little old ladies, little old men. I still have her costume. She never got to wear it. So, Bridget, if you got to meet my Bridget, okay, we're going to have a little bit of levity here because it's going to get real serious, but if you got to meet my Bridget and she'd walk up to you and say, "Hi, what's your name? What's your name?" Bridget. Your name is Bridget? I'm thinking, wow, this is... Okay. Janet. Hi, Janet. My name is Bridget Manning. Bridget Manning? No, Bridget. It's Bridget O'Donnell. We're not raising liars. Oh, no. My name is Bridget Manning because Eli Manning is my husband and my son is Tom Brady. So, I don't know, are we in a room full of Jet fans because you're right in Florham Park, right? Right, do we, Giants? Do we have any Cowboy fans?
Oh, there's one over there.
Yeah, okay, you remember that the Cowboys won the Super Bowl in the last century. Queen Elizabeth was still alive, right? Okay, did somebody say Philly fan?
I just told him to leave off.
I think you should just leave. No. Met fans? Oh, yeah, well, yeah, Tim, Tim was a big Met fan, but Bridget, we're talking about Bridget, and Bridget was a diehard Giant fan. I mean, she just ran around the house. Eli Manning's my husband, and she wanted to be the first female tight end and play for the New York Giants. And I did get to meet Eli Manning, and I told him the story. I met a lot of the Giants because of what happened, but it shouldn't be me. It should be them. It should have been her. So she also, 5 years old, she hated bullies. She didn't like bullies. I don't know what other 5-year-old kid, but I mean, how many of you have younger or grandchildren? Their rooms are probably decorated with rainbows and unicorns. Bridget had a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. right next to her bed, and a big fat head of Eli Manning. And she can recite the I Have a Dream speech. Martin Luther King Jr. was a big idol for her. And she kind of probably wouldn't like what's going on in the world today, but well, your husband and I would always say to each other, joke around, that we would have to have a separate bank account for her because we knew at some point Bridget was going to get arrested, but for good reasons, doing a sit-in, somebody got bullied, or doing a protest. She liked to be naked. I would be up at the counter at Burger King, and her and her sister would go look for a seat, and I would turn around and get the food, and all I had to do was follow the clothes because she would take them off. She just hated clothes, and she would just walk around naked. She would go see Mayor Davis probably and take office. So, and then we have my husband, Tim, county prep teacher in Jersey City. Science and math, way too smart for me. You ask me 2 + 2, I'll tell you it's 6. We could blame that on the brain cancer, but it's really not the brain cancer. I'm just dumb at math. So, he was that kind of teacher, and I hope all the schools that I go to, I always say this, I hope every student has a teacher in their school that, even though we taught science, math, trigonometry, how many of us use trigonometry and calculus in our life? Probably never, right? But in sports, we have some hockey players here. He would be the teacher that even if he didn't teach that subject and a student went up to him and said, hey, I can't be on the basketball team because I'm failing. Can you help me in English? My husband would stay at school till 7, 8 o'clock at night and make sure that kid passed so that they can fulfill their dreams, graduate, get on the sports team, whatever they needed to do. So, sorry. 3:19 p.m. 2 people are missing. But even before 3:2, it's the same picture I showed you earlier, same exact picture. So my husband that day had to pick up my daughter. She's 5 years old. She had to pick up my daughter from her school because they only had half a day pre-K. And so he picked her up, brought her back to his school, county prep, because they had a daycare center there. And she gets to county prep, and at approximately 12:30 in the afternoon, she calls me up from county prep, and she's like, Mommy, guess what? I'm so excited. I learned the letter P today. Great, Bridie, great. And she's like, and at that age, their homework assignment when you're 5 years old in pre-K is like to draw something, color or something that begins with the letter you learn, pizza, pasta, plant, whatever. She said, no, Mommy. She said, can you do me a favor and please print out a picture of yourself because P represents Pam, my mom. Ah, Bridie, thank you. I'm so honored that you did that. I'll be glad. I'll print it right now. And she said, okay, Mama, I love you. Bye-bye. Click. That was the very last conversation that I had with my daughter, telling me that she loves me and asked me for a picture of myself. Because at 3:19, 2 people are gone. A 36-year-old adult, not somebody just getting their permit, not somebody just getting their license, a 36-year-old adult that should have known better, should have known right from wrong. On that Friday night, this was a Monday, that Friday night, he made a choice, and one thing about me, an advocate like myself, and stop using the word accidents, because an accident is maybe if we have a hurricane and there was a dead tree that fell on the car and somebody died, that's an accident. Accidents implies no fault, so advocates like me, and I go across the United States and do this, we don't use the word accident. It's a choice. On that Friday night, he made a choice to call up and get a hotel room in Upper Manhattan, hung up the phone, proceeded to call his drug dealer, methamphetamines, amphetamines, GHB, marijuana, cocaine, alcohol, and I think that's it. Could be something else, I might be missing something. And he got all these drugs. He made the choice to get drugs for him and his 4 buddies to go to Upper Manhattan, get a room, and party all weekend long. Well, now Monday comes. Drugs are gone. They don't have money to get another night at the hotel and sleep it off. 3 of the people he's with are disappeared. They just fell off the earth. And he gets in his car and he thinks he's going to make it from Upper Manhattan all the way to Trenton, New Jersey. He lived in Hamilton. That's a 2-hour, just getting out of Manhattan is like an hour. And then it's another hour down to Trenton. So it's a 2-hour ride. He thought he was going to drive 2 hours and be okay. Not a problem. Here's where it gets crazy. So in New York City, we have cops all over the place. You've all been to New York at some time, right? There's cops everywhere because of 9/11. But there's also erratic driving in New York City. It's just become normal. You know, taxi cabs are cutting off buses and guys on the bikes, and so it's become normal. So no, we didn't get any 911 calls about this guy driving erratically. Here's where it gets really crazy. He gets to the Holland Tunnel, and I watched the videotape. Now, the Holland Tunnel, if any of you have been through the Holland Tunnel, just like the Lincoln Tunnel, it's 2 lanes, you can't switch lanes. Goes through the Holland Tunnel. I watched the videotape, and he's going through the Holland Tunnel. It's as if he's leading a parade. Can't go, nobody could pass him because he's going down the middle of the Holland Tunnel. Half of his car is in the right lane, the other half is in the left lane. It was a 1998 2-seater Mercedes-Benz that weighs 3,300 pounds. So nobody would be able to, now when I take my daughter to New York now, and I do presentations and stuff, I get Wi-Fi in the Holland Tunnel. Not one person, not one 911 call came through. Not one. And then all of a sudden, I'm watching a videotape, and he's going straight, and then he starts to snake through the Holland Tunnel. So still no call to anybody. Now, there's a Port Authority police right outside. Had somebody called, I might not have this conversation with him. But then he started swerving. And I could tell you this, I see it every time. He hit the walls, bouncing off the walls of the Holland Tunnel 18 times. 18. So when I go to New York and come through the Holland Tunnel, it's very hard for me because those skid marks are still there. And I name them Tim and Bridget. Tim and Bridget. So then he gets out of the Holland Tunnel. Now, when you come out of the Holland Tunnel, there's BJ's, there's Best Buy, there's gas stations. If he was having a problem, he could have pulled over. But no, he didn't do that. What he chose to do was go up the ramp and go through the New Jersey Turnpike ramp, because you could either go left to 109 or 132, or make the right and go up the New Jersey Turnpike ramp. So he goes up the ramp, and again, people are watching this. And the first thing they did was take videotape of this guy driving erratic so that they could be the first ones to put it on social media. So we had at the time videotape of, it was on TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff of people just videotaping while they're driving, but nobody thought to call 911. So he's driving up the New Jersey Turnpike, and at the same time, at about 3:10, 3:15, my husband is leaving County Prep, and right behind County Prep is another ramp to the Turnpike. So he's coming up the ramp. My husband is leaving school with my 5-year-old daughter, and they get to 14C Toll Plaza. And my husband, being a mathematician that he was, Easy Pass doesn't give you that good of brakes, so he went through the ticket lane. 0 miles an hour. The car was stopped because he was taking the ticket out of the toll plaza. And this guy, 36 years old, came flying up the New Jersey Turnpike, hitting the barriers, and we'll get into that, of the New Jersey Turnpike, and people just videotaping it. Hits and rear ends my husband. So this picture here is the result of him being rear-ended, and the only solace or comfort that I have is the minute he hit my husband's car with so much force, going 55 miles per hour through a toll plaza. which is normal speed on a highway, but no, toll plazas are 5 miles per hour. The minute he hit my husband's car, both my husband and my daughter were internally decapitated. So they didn't suffer. Oh, this is sad. So this picture is the result of my husband having no control of the car because he's dead. And his car, and I watched the videotape, and I watched my husband's car slowly roll into oncoming traffic. And that van happens to be the medical van that took me to and from my cancer treatment. So the medical van that helped save my life ultimately was involved in taking half of my life. So, as you can see, we have state troopers, firemen. There's a white sheet, but before the white sheet got put on, before anybody called 911, and the people that called 911 were my husband's co-workers, because they were all leaving school. They were teachers. They were right behind him. They were all going the same way. They were the ones that called 911. So, but before that sheet went over my husband, people took out their phones and they videotaped my husband sitting in his car, bleeding out, and thought they needed to put it on social media. I had to hire a private investigator to get these people and beg them to take these pictures and videos down. Some did, some didn't. But what I'm grateful for, and I am a huge, big first responder. I never had a problem with first responders before. My mayor being a cop, and I know him all my life. So I had great respect, but now I have an even better respect because the state troopers, the firemen, the EMS, 90% of those first responders were my husband's former students from County Prep High School. So not only did it affect my family and the city of Bayonne, it affected his students. They used to put diapers on my daughter when she was in daycare. So they were able to identify my husband. I didn't have to do it. They identified him, so my husband went directly to the medical examiner's office. Then at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I still don't know what's going on, never heard anything. I get a phone call at work, and I'm in Rutherford, and I'm working right outside Giant Stadium. Great view of my favorite, well, no, it's really not my favorite stadium. The old Giant Stadium was my favorite. So I get a phone call at about 4 o'clock, and she says, "Are you Pam O'Donnell?" "Yes." "Are you related to Tim O'Donnell?" "Yes." "Stay right where you are. We're sending detectives to come and pick you up." Why? Who are you? I don't know what's going on. I can't talk about it. Just get ready. Detectives are coming to pick you up. I get in a car. Detectives from Rutherford are driving me to Jersey City Medical Center, where my daughter was. But here's what happened on that phone call. On the phone call, she kept talking about my husband and asked me questions about my husband, and I realized she didn't say anything about my daughter. And I said, "Well, if you're not going to put my husband on the phone, I want you to put my daughter on the phone." My daughter's 5 years old. She's more well-spoken than you are. A couple of 4-letter words came out of my mouth. And I said, "Put my daughter on the phone right now. I don't know if you're a scammer. I don't know if you're, a carjacker. I don't know what you are, who you are. Put my daughter on the phone." And I could hear the change in her voice. I could hear, it was like, "You have a daughter?" Yeah, I have 2 daughters. One is at school in Bayonne in 1st grade, and one is with my husband right now. So put her on the phone. What she should have done was put me on hold, mute, or said, "I'll call you back," and she didn't do any of that. What I heard, she radioed back to the crash site and said, "You better check that car again. There's a baby in the car." For 41 minutes, nobody knew that my 5-year-old daughter was in that car. Now, can you imagine, where would a 5-year-old daughter be? Where would a 5-year-old kid be in the car? Back seat. This picture made it all over the Associated Press, all over the world. They actually interrupted the Ellen DeGeneres show at the time for this. Nobody ever interrupts Ellen DeGeneres, but they did for this. So the Associated Press, if you're not familiar with it, that is where every legit organization gets their news from. And this went all over the world. Now, you said my daughter should be in the back seat. Do you see a back seat? And we're actually going to pass this around so you could get a better view. Do you see a back seat? No, the trunk is kind of in the front seat. But let me ask, is there anything in that picture that stands out to you? Anybody? The stuffed animal? Proby from Yo Gabba Gabba. The actual one that was in the car. And he was sitting on her lap because I know what she was doing with him. This is the actual one from the car. This is what I got. 9 years later, on the left, there's a stain. It's now fading out because it's 9 years. What's the stain? This is all I have of my 5-year-old daughter that wanted to cure cancer and play for the New York Giants. I have a stuffed animal with blood on it because a 36-year-old adult made a choice to do drugs, get high, get in a car, and destroy our lives. This is all I have. Up in the front, there's a little orange circle, her sippy cup. And I know what my husband did because he did it every day. It was an everyday thing. He filled it with chocolate milk. She would go steal the chocolate milk from the teacher's lounge. She would go steal a little carton of chocolate milk, pour it into her cup. This is her sippy cup. That's all I have of my 5-year-old little girl. And to this day, it's 9 years later, I have never washed it out. It's filled with, it's grainy, it's mildewy, it stinks. I cannot wash this out. Because there's a part of me, and don't think I'm crazy, I've been through 9 years of intense therapy. I can't wash this out because I feel like if I wash this out, I washed my daughter away and she never existed. And she did. She did. She's now just a statistic though, but she's a human being. 5 years old that never had a star, and all I got was her sippy cup and her stuffed animal. I didn't get anything from my husband, not his clothes, nothing from him. So we get to the Rutherford police officers, pick me up, bring me to Jersey City Medical Center, and I walk in a room and there was one of the state troopers was my husband's co-worker's son. His mother was right behind my husband driving. He met me at the hospital. I walk into a little room, still don't know what's going on, and a doctor, I called my brother and my father and said, please get to Jersey City Medical Center, something happened with Tim and Bridget, I don't know what, because they still didn't tell me. And a doctor walks in the room and he says, Miss O'Donnell, I'm sorry, they're not here. Who's not here and where did they go? What are we talking about? Because nobody told me. Miss O'Donnell, I'm sorry they didn't make it. Again, now a couple of 4-letter words are coming out of my mouth. I'm screaming, I'm crying, like, what are you talking about? And he gets very fed up and he lifts up his hands and he says, Miss O'Donnell, I'm sorry to tell you there was a car crash and your husband and daughter did not make it. And I fell to the ground. And then I didn't even have a minute to dissect what I just heard. And a nurse says to me, are you ready? And I'm like, am I ready for what? My husband was already taken to the medical examiner's office because his students ID'd him, but when it's a baby, you need a family member to ID her. She's 5 years old, she never licensed, and she doesn't carry a purse with a birth certificate or anything in it. And so 2 nurses get me, and I walk into this room. And if you can imagine, I walk in and there's my blonde hair, blue-eyed little girl on a silver cold gurney with a sheet up to her neck, a tracheotomy in her mouth. Her eyes were taped shut and she had the bluest, I'm telling you, the absolute bluest eyes that you have ever seen. And to this day, I am yet to see that color blue ever again. However, there's a young man in Detroit that has her eyes, and we are trying to make that meeting happen so that I can see her eyes again. So I walk into this room, and whenever a tragedy like this happens, they'll have somebody of your faith there, whether it's a rabbi or imam or a Catholic priest, whatever. And I'm screaming, Bridget, I'm sorry, Bridget, I'm sorry. And the priest stops me, and he goes, what are you sorry for? And I said, because I'm her parent, and I'm supposed to help her. I was supposed to save her. But I wasn't even there, and he goes, you're right. He goes, my husband couldn't even save her. He was in the car with her. So, me and my bright ideas, I told you I stink at math. I got these bright ideas. And I said, can I have some time alone with her? And I said, can I get on the gurney? Can I just lay next to her? Now, me being a cancer survivor, I had already been diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety because of my war with cancer. And when I walked into that room, for some reason, they still had the heart monitor going on. And all I heard was beep. Why am I listening to this? She's dead. So I ripped that machine apart, because why am I going to listen to it? So I get on the gurney, and I'm just singing her favorite lullaby for 3 hours. And then I get this bright idea that, well, no one's going to tell me what to do, like I wasn't allowed to touch anything. And I untaped her eyes, and I had to physically open them. Physically open them, so that I can see that color blue again. So for 3 hours, her eyes were open, she was looking at me, but she was dead. Ice cold. Whenever you go to a funeral and you go, I'm the type that when I walk up to someone's casket, I will touch their hand and do the whole thing. I'm just that person that does that. But when you touch the dead body of a baby, all dead bodies are cold. But when it's a baby, it's 1,000 times worse than Antarctica. So I get on the gurney, I'm singing her favorite lullaby, and then I get another bright idea. Okay, so now, because she was chubby, cute, dimples all over, I'm going to start from her head to her toes, and I'm just going to touch every part of her body, because I knew this was the last time I was going to have that chance, because the next time I was going to see her was going to be in a box. And I get down to the torso area, and it got a little funky. She still had the sheet on her, I still had the sheet on her, and I'm just going through her body. I get down to the torso. Something's not right. And I ripped that sheet off. And did you ever, like when you're reading a bedtime story to your kids and you have their heads are like right here and they're propped up and you're reading a story to them? Remember when you did that with your little kids? I only had half of her because the seatbelt went right through her and cut her in half. So my daughter was in 2 pieces. 2 pieces, 5 years old, and she's in 2 pieces. So I still stayed there until my brother knocked on the door and said, Pam, what about Allie? I completely forgot that I had another daughter. And by this time, Bayonne was closed off, our mayor can tell you, like, it was just like New Year's Eve in Bayonne. It was just so crowded. Everybody's on the streets. Everybody knew my husband. There's not one person you can meet that will tell you anything bad about him. And I'm not saying that because he was my husband. I mean, there's several people here that could vouch for me. His brother is here. My brother-in-law, Kevin. There's not one person that could say anything bad about him. I'm not just saying that because he's my husband and he's dead. So my brother knocks on the door and I'm like, oh crap, we got Allie. Now my daughter is 6 at this time. So Allie, luckily, so all the news crews had come into Bayonne and they're all at my daughter's school, at her 1st grade school, and because they were going to try to get her. But my husband's friends that knew about it were quick enough to go to school and get her out of there. But the news crew still stayed there. And they did some interviews, but did you ever see when something happens on the news, something really serious, and there's a big crowd and the journalist is doing his thing, and then you get that idiot that goes behind the journalist and is like this, or doing this? They were there for that. They weren't there to support my husband and daughter, or me and my other daughter. They were there to get on the news. So I made a thing with the principal. I said, if I give one interview just to get them away from the school, so I gave an interview. And I got trashed for that. Oh, she was fine enough to do an interview. I was doing the interview to get them away from the school, so that kids could still go to school and not be bothered by this. But I got trashed for that. So my daughter goes home with my husband's friends. My house is like completely, did you ever notice when somebody dies in your family, your house is crowded and people you don't even know coming up with cookies? They're like, okay, yeah, take your cookie. Like, I'm going to eat it now. Well, okay, I appreciate the thought, but chuck it. I'm not eating it. So my daughter calls me up and she says, Mom, I want to come home, but Frank is saying that I should sleep over. And I said, yeah, Allie, I think you should sleep over. She goes, no, Mom, something is really wrong. I could feel it in my stomach. And you telling me I could sleep over Frank's house? I know I want to come home. And I just didn't have it in me to fight with her. And because I was in shock. So she came home, and now she sees the crowd. There's a whole crowd outside of my house. She's like, Mom, why are all these people here? I didn't know what to tell her. And she gets through the house. And my husband and daughter and two daughters had, they always hid. My daughter, Bridget, who's no longer with us, loved to hide either in the refrigerator or, and she'd be eating while she was doing it. Yeah. But no, you get stuck, and if I don't know where you are, you're going to get stuck in the refrigerator. But no, she was fine being naked in the refrigerator eating spaghetti from the night before. That was just her. So she also liked to hide in the kitchen cabinet. So my daughter, Allie, who was 6 at the time, comes in the house. She's pushing through the crowd, still doesn't understand why all these people are here, and she's going through the house. Daddy, Bridget, she's looking under covers, she's looking in cabinets. She looks at me and she goes, Mom, are they joking with me? Are they playing hide and seek? What do I tell her? What do I tell her? Do I tell her they went on a cruise and they're not coming back? So I pulled Allie into my bedroom and I said, Allie, Daddy and Bridget went to go be with Papa. This was their grandfather. And she said, what do you mean? Pop-Pop's dead. I said, Daddy and Bridget are not coming back. And she said, Mommy, what happened? I said, there was a car crash. A really bad man made a really bad choice, not an accident. He made a choice. If it wasn't going to be my family, it could have been one of you. He made that choice to do that. And what she said to me blew my mind. And she said, Mom, what about a true love's kiss? Where have we all heard that from? Every Disney movie out there. The true love of the prince can wake up the dead princess, or Sleeping Beauty. True love of a sister can unfreeze her sister in Frozen, which was one of our favorite movies. And at that minute, I realized, because I told her, I said, Allie, I tried for 3 hours, it didn't work. From that moment, I realized not only did he slaughter my husband and daughter, but he took my daughter, who was 6, and she became 26 like that. She lost her entire childhood. To this day, she's going to be 16 in 3 weeks. She will never watch a Disney movie ever again. As far as she's concerned, it's a lie. She doesn't care about Disney World. With some rich company offered to send us to Disney World, and she said, no, I don't want to go, because it's all a lie, and I'm glad Walt Disney is dead, because he was a liar. So now I have to realize I have to prepare a funeral. And we had, my oncologist came that night just to make sure that my blood pressure was okay, everything, because we all know stress brings on illness. I'm a cancer survivor. I was just out a year into being a survivor. So he's there. We also have, I had the fortitude enough, I don't know how I did it, but I said, we need psychologists at the house. So we had 2 psychologists at the house. And a psychologist said, make sure that Allie is involved in the funeral arrangements. So there's my husband, Tim, my one favorite picture. My 6-year-old daughter did that. My 6-year-old daughter made the decision on what Daddy was going to wear in his coffin on his trip to the afterlife. My 6-year-old daughter decided on what pictures were going to be there. My 6-year-old daughter decided he was going to wear his sweatsuit because he was a softball coach. And he was, in the middle of a snowstorm, he was that guy, it's like 10 below zero, sweatshirt and shorts on, shoveling snow. That was him. Bridget, typical Jersey stand. Lip, hands on the hip, foot like that. That's typical Jersey girl, right? Yeah. My 6-year-old daughter had to decide what her best friend, her little sister, was going to wear in her box. And that red dress is the dress she wore in her first and only Christmas musical at pre-K at school. And she never took it off from December to February. And my 6-year-old daughter decided that's what Bridget should go on her afterlife trip to. No 6-year-old should ever do that. It defies the laws of nature for any parent to bury a child. But not only did I bury my child, I buried my husband as well. How many times have you seen on the news when somebody does something bad, whether it's a shooting, a crash, they show the mugshot, right? My family, we know that they're internally decapitated. My daughter's cut in half, and I have every autopsy photo. Ralph Ciani certified me as a police instructor, and I used those photos for the police academy. I have the pictures of my daughter's heart on another table. I have the pictures of her cut open. And I use them when I talk to the police academy, but we'll talk about that. But is there a scratch on his face? That's the same day. He was in the very next room as I was laying on a gurney with my daughter. Had I known he was just 5 feet away from me, I might be here with an ankle monitor on. And I'd probably get more time than he would, because we're just handing out plea bargains like they're going out of style. And when you see in the news, 5-year plea bargain, they plead guilty, so they get a 5-year or 10-year plea bargain. And let me tell you, they don't do that. So I learned a lot during this 6-year court case. And I mean, there's prosecutors here, so they can tell me, please feel free to chime in when I'm wrong. But I said to the prosecutor, you are not even thinking about giving this guy a plea bargain. And he said, no. And I said, all right, then we're going to fight. But how many of you watch Law and Order, Chicago PD? I grew up watching NYPD Blue. Sipowicz was my favorite, right? The crime happens in the first second of the show. By 60 minutes later, it's over. Somebody's tried, convicted, or not convicted. That doesn't happen in real life. What happens is, 2016, that day, February 22nd, that day, he was taken to county jail, and we had to endure 104 hearings over the course of 3 years. 104. And a hearing is when the defense attorney and the prosecutor are going to argue with each other on what is going to be allowed into evidence. So can you imagine, and the way the court system, the courtroom in Jersey City is, So they have the first row, it's like a church pew, and they bring in these guys on a yellow bus from the county jail, and they're shackled. They bring them in, and they get to sit in the first row. And then the second, third, every row after that is family members. I kid you not, hand to God. If I didn't have bad luck, I would not have any luck at all. Don't ask me for the $1 million lottery numbers, because I don't have them. 104 times, Kevin was on one side of the room. 104 times, I'm only going to do this because you're sitting right in front of me. I am this close because he sat in front of me every single time. I was able to reach out and put my hands around his neck. I did. And I got thrown out. I did. I tried it. Of course I tried. Of course. I had nothing to lose. I beat cancer. My family's dead. Yeah, I'll spend a night in jail for my family. Of course I will. So, 104 times. We finally get to the trial in 2019. So it was a 5-day trial, 4 days of the prosecution. Honest to God, great guy, Leo Hernandez. I went to see a couple other times that he was in court just to study him and see, do we really have the good prosecutor? As quiet as a mouse, but he was a bulldog in court, and that's exactly what we needed. He wasn't letting this guy get off with nothing. So it's 4 days of listening to, watching the videotapes, watching the testimony of people that were blowing their horns, people that saw him driving erratically, the state troopers testifying. Here's another thing about state troopers. Normally, and you can, if you might want to agree with me, normally an officer will go and testify and then they leave. They normally don't stay for the rest of the trial. Our state troopers, these guys, 4 guys in this picture, stayed for 5 days. Stayed with me because they wanted to make sure that they had justice. So they took their time off from the state police and they sat with me in court, and I'm so grateful for that. So 4 days of listening to the prosecution, do a hell of a job. And then you can hear, I don't know, Kevin, if you remember this, when he started yelling, I'm getting up there, and the defense attorney kept saying, don't get up there, don't get up there, they're going to hang you. They're going to hang you if you get up there and testify. And he yelled and he said, no, because I want her to know I didn't do this. Well, I don't know who did it. One car, one driver, who did it? So, and the other thing is, some of the court officers, when the defense attorney took him in the back to try to convince him not to testify, they too were my husband's former students. So I kind of knew everything that was going on. Let's keep that between ourselves, prosecutors. Let's not tell on him. So he actually gets on the stand. They don't find the other 3 guys that he was in the hotel room. We hired a PI, we couldn't find them. They fell off the face of the earth, or maybe they OD'd or something, I don't know. So he gets on there, and I don't know if you kept my brother-in-law sitting there. His testimony, he stood there and he's staring at me. And because I did put my hand out to try to choke him, they made sure they had 2 police officers on each side of me to keep me from, because I was going. I'm a Bayonne, Hudson County girl, I'm going. And if you, this can't get any, this is like Lifetime can't make this stuff up. He sat there, stared at me because he's facing me. He's sitting, in a lower seat next to the judge. He's going to testify. And he starts doing, I don't know why this happened, because he was such a big guy. My husband was a big guy. I don't know why this happened. Why didn't his fat cushion the blow? Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So the police had to hold me back, because I'm like, now I'm really ready to go. So his testimony was, well, I didn't do anything. I was just there at the hotel room. I didn't do any drugs that entire weekend. But as I was driving home, and if you remember, Kevin, the Visine bottle, do you remember the Visine bottle? Now, I know when we all leave here tonight, I know what's in my car. I know that there's stuff for a gala that we're having. I'm sure you know what's in your car. He's driving home, and this is his testimony. There's a Visine bottle. We all know what Visine is. It gets the red out of your eyes, the itchiness. But it's an eye drop. You have to squeeze it to get one drop. And so he's driving up the New Jersey Turnpike, weaving in and out of traffic, driving erratically. Nobody calls 911. Listen, if you see something, say something. That's one thing we learned from 9/11. If you see something, say something. We need more of that. Stop being the first journalist to have to be, want to be journalists and put something on Facebook or anything. His testimony was, if you can believe this nonsense, I took the Visine bottle, and as I'm driving, I sniffed it because I didn't know what was in it. Well, if it's Visine, it's Visine. And I must have hit a bump, and it turned over. So I have a water bottle. So let's say this is the Visine. I hit a bump, and it flipped over, and and it spilled down, and that's how all the drugs got into his system. Now, if this was open, all it would do is make my shirt wet. It's not going to seep into my bloodstream. So he was lying. But the other thing he was lying about was, no, he didn't hit a bump. What he did was, he kept hitting the side guardrail, the cement barriers on the turnpike. He didn't hit a bump. He was hitting the barriers. So that was his testimony, that a Visine bottle is what got the drugs into his system.
He lied.
Yeah, he lied about everything, everything. So, now, I don't know if you remember Casey Anthony case down in Florida. Okay. I could not believe they found her not guilty. If you want to commit murder, go down to Florida. Right? So I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, do we have 12 smart people in Hudson County that are going to find this guy guilty? It's nerve-wracking. It really does touch on your nerves. This is why people don't hear about these stories and what it does. Having to go through therapy, because I had to sit this close to the man that killed my family and not say a word. Couldn't say a word 104 times. Kevin couldn't say a word 104 times. So we got to sit next to him. And then it came. We heard the words, guilty, 6 times. Hallelujah, we won. He was facing 65 years. 2 counts of vehicular homicide, reckless driving, 2 counts of aggravated manslaughter, drug possession. Facing 65 years, the judge had mercy on him. He got 37. However, while it may seem it's not enough for me, but it's still better than what you see across the United States. Plea bargain, plea bargain, plea bargain, plea bargain. It's better than 5 years, it's better than 10 years.
That's how terrible this crime.
Yep. So he was facing 65 years, we got 37, okay. And they knew beforehand. But, so the prosecutor warned me, we're looking at about 40 years. And I was like, okay, it's still better than 5 years or 10 years. So he gets sentenced and we think it's over. We think it's over. Well, we'll get into some stuff about that because it's never over. Because at the end of the day, our Constitution says if you are convicted of a crime, you have the right to appeal. So for 6 years after that, this was in 2019, I would call the prosecutor quite a few times a week for 6 years. Did we hear anything? Did we hear anything? Is he appealing? No, there's no judge, there's no lawyer he can get. It was an ironclad case. The state troopers did a great investigation. 2022, I'm doing a live press conference with Colonel Callahan of the New Jersey State Police, and my phone is going off the rails. Now, this is 2022, 6 years later. And I get off the stage, we finish the press conference, we go to a diner, and I look at the phone, it's the prosecutor, and I said, oh, here it is. this is the call I've been waiting for, and the prosecutor says to me, who are you with? And I said, I'm with the colonel of the state police, and he says, give him the phone, and I gave the colonel the phone, and he says, do me a favor, give her a beer and a shot, she's gonna need it. Order her a beer and a shot. What's going on here? He appealed, and he won. So the conviction was overturned. So we had to go through this all over again. But do we go through a trial? Are we going to be able to find 12 smart jurors again? Do we go through the trial, and what if they find him not guilty? He walks out that day, and then he's going to sue the state of New Jersey because he was incarcerated for 6 years, and you're all going to pay for him, and he's going to walk out $10 million, $20 million. He's going to sue the state of New Jersey. Or do we go through the trial, he gets convicted, he's gone. Okay, great, another conviction. But then again, another appeal. So if you understand what I'm saying, we had to stop this cycle for me and my daughter, because a lot went on with my daughter, and we'll get into that. So we agreed, I sat down with the prosecutor and defense attorney, and I said, what are we looking at? Now remember, he was originally sentenced to 37 years. And remember, I have my husband's former students. Some of them work in the prison that he's in. So I know everything he's doing. So they said to me, what if we shave off 5 years? So it went from 37 to 32. And I said, you know what? For the sake of my daughter, okay. I said, are we going to end it here, like we will never have to do this again? And they said, if you say yes to this, we will never do this again. And I only said yes to this because I know that he's sick and he's dying. He's got AIDS and he has cancer and he's dying in prison. So adios, goodbye. I have no sympathy for him at all whatsoever.
Did he get on appeal because of that?
He got out on appeal for, right? No, he actually got out on appeal for, all of those 6 counts were great, but when the judge, he appealed on, one thing he appealed on was that the state troopers gave him legal advice. In the state of New Jersey, if you are a police officer of any type, you cannot give out legal advice. What he said to them, and it's all on video camera, they were wearing their video cameras. He appealed that they told him what to do, and that's not what happened. He asked them, should I get a lawyer or should I not get a lawyer? The perfect response is, if you think you need a lawyer, get a lawyer. If you don't think you need a lawyer, don't get a lawyer. That's it. I spoke to the National Institute of Justice based in Washington, spoke to the Secretary of Transportation in Washington. That was the perfect response. So we lost on that one. The second appeal was 37 years is too long. I shouldn't be in jail for 37 years. Oh, well, boo-hoo, cry me a river. Going back, what was it, Colombo? If you can't do the crime, don't do the... If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Is that Colombo? Beretta. Okay, I know I got something wrong. So... he didn't like the fact that he was in prison for I can't do it. My mom, I'm her caretaker. Well, you know what, buddy? You just took my 2 caretakers away. And my daughter doesn't have her dad and sister. So boo-hoo, cry me a river. So the appellate court laughed at that. What he won on was the appellate court felt that when the judge gave the jury direction, that instead of all of these counts that he was found guilty on, she should have given them a second option. What would the second option be?
I don't see a second option.
They wanted a second lower option, and it was, what I was told was like, they would have said, plead guilty and pay like a $300 fine.
Honest on it, so that's fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go any lower than that.
So they wanted, he appealed because the judge did not instruct the jury to have a second option.
Lesser included.
Right. So he won. So we had to go and do this all over again, and I stopped it. And what was funny about one of the appeals is going after law enforcement. The day we went into the resentencing, I made sure that that lawn, my whole side of the galley was filled with police officers. We had Bayonne police, we had state troopers there, police from everywhere. And I got up there and did my victim impact statement and said, Scott, look, you tried to take these guys down. And the sad thing is, his brother was a sheriff. Brother was a sheriff. Where was he? He never showed up to anything. Mom was a registered nurse. And every hospital she ever worked at, she got fired. Wonder why? Because drugs were missing every time on her shift.
I called them Pam's posse. They were with her every step of the way.
Yeah. So we ended up going down to 35, which is fine. But just as of today, we've had 95 fatal crashes. It probably went up since 10 o'clock this morning, and I didn't update it. 95 fatal crashes in the state of New Jersey, and 101 fatalities. One death is too many. It's got to stop. It's an epidemic that nobody wants to talk about. For those of you that have kids, how many of you have kids that are drivers? Are they teenagers? Any of them? Teenagers? You just getting your permit. The 100 deadliest days for teen drivers are between Memorial Day and Labor Day. More teens will die across the United States than any other time of year. So our police officers, our sheriffs, they got to be on duty. They got to make sure that this doesn't happen. More teens in the United States, it is the #1 killer of teens across the United States. So if you go home, one of the things my husband always said, he was a teacher and they had parent-teacher conference night, and some parents never came because there's after-school activities. They got travel ball, travel soccer, cheerleading. And he would come home and cry and say nobody showed up. Nobody really cared about their kids' grades. And he always said what's missing in society is the kitchen table. So I'm asking you tonight, when you leave here, if I made any difference to you. Tonight, tomorrow, the weekend's coming up, have that kitchen table talk. Get back to the kitchen table. How many times do you go out to eat, family of 4 sitting in a booth, and everybody's playing on their phones? Have that talk. The World Health Organization estimates 1.36 million people die across the world. Every 24 seconds, somebody dies across the world. So if you have family in Germany, Poland, wherever, 24 seconds, every 24 seconds, somebody is dead. National Safety Council, which I am a part of, in 2020, what were we doing? Quarantine, right? COVID. Nobody's on the streets except essential workers, ambulance, PSC&G, sheriffs, whatever, essential workers. 2020, as an advocate, we all got excited about COVID. Not that we wanted people to be sick. We didn't want anybody to die from COVID, but we got excited thinking, we're actually going to see a decrease in car crashes. We're going to see a decrease in fatalities. We were dead wrong. It actually went up 8% in 2020 during quarantine. Why? Because nobody's on the road, so people think they could just do 102 miles an hour down the New Jersey Turnpike. Then you have people that are alcoholics and they're doing Zoom calls. How many times have you seen a TikTok, somebody doing a Zoom call, they stand up and they're in the underwear? Right? We've all seen it. Well, that idiot probably needed to get off the Zoom call, race down to the liquor store to get his fix, or go get his drugs and get home. So we had people just running rampant. And I don't care how rich you are. I do not care if you are, I don't even want to say his name, you know, that guy, that billionaire. I don't care how rich you are. I do not believe any teenager that graduates, first of all, you're supposed to graduate high school anyway. That's something you do. You do not buy your kid a high-velocity vehicle. They do not have the experience to drive it. The BMWs, the Mustangs, the high-velocity vehicles, don't. Give them a used Hyundai. because they're going to get scratches. Chances are they're going to crash. They're going to hit something. More teens are going to, you give them a BMW or a Corvette or a Mustang, get ready because you're going to be paying for a funeral. So I don't care how rich you are and you can afford whatever car you want. They just graduated high school. That's something we all have to do in our life. Why should they get a high-velocity vehicle? That's just my personal point of view on this, because we see too many kids with high-velocity vehicles and they do not know how to work it. The National Safety Councils, we're just getting, 2024 hasn't come out yet, but in 2023, over 44,000 people died across the United States in car crashes that 100% preventable. Talk about if you're into inflation and you're into political stuff, this is the only political thing I'm going to get into. Doesn't matter about the price of eggs, price of paper towels. Car crashes cost our country $474 billion a year. Where's the outrage for that? You're all outraged we're paying $20 for 12 eggs, but where's your outrage for the federal government or companies paying out $474 billion? Where's the outrage? You don't hear about it. Now, for any of you that have younger brothers, sisters, do you have younger brothers or sisters? How old are they? Second grade and sixth grade? Okay, so you're hanging out with your hockey friends, right? And sometimes they might come in and be like, hey, I want to hang out with you. And you're like, get away, get away, get away. I don't want, trying to be cool, right? Listen, your brothers and sisters love you. And if you're going to be the one that's, when your parents give you the keys and you could take your brother or sister to soccer practice, wherever they need to go, they're going to be the ones in the back watching you. And that goes for all the parents. That goes for all of you. Be the example. If you were that person that uses a phone, guess what? Expect your family members to use it too. Be the example. Do not use your phone. Do not drink and drive. If you're going out to dinner and you're having a bottle of wine, who's going to be the one driving home? Pick somebody in your group that's going to drive home. Just recently, I've forgotten what state, I just read it today. Husband and wife, newly married, 6 months. They did the right thing. They went out, they went to a restaurant, they got drunk, they went home by Uber. Somebody else that was drunk hit the Uber car and the husband and wife are dead. They were doing the right thing. So, for your younger brothers and sisters, this is going to be your legacy for anybody, whether they die, somebody dies in your family by cancer, heart attack, anything like that. What happens is a kid from the age of 7 to 17, when they suffer a loss with somebody that lives in the house, they are 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 10 times more likely to engage in substance abuse, 20 times more likely to engage in behavioral issues. My daughter and I have both been in intense therapy for years. She goes her therapist, I go to mine, and then we do therapy together. She does have some, but she's also going to be 16. She's a girl. She's got the hormones that, I always wanted a boy. I wouldn't leave the OBGYN's office until she draw that on there. I'm not leaving this office till you tell me it's a boy. So I really don't have behavioral issues with her, besides the fact that she calls up Mayor Davis all the time and they have a good time laughing. He always puts a smile on her face. Wait a minute, we gotta go back. Drug abuse, my daughter will not even take an aspirin. I don't know why I take it to the pediatrician, because she will not take an aspirin, because she's deadly afraid of becoming the man that killed her family. Dropping out of school, not happening, because she wants to be just like her dad. She wants to go to Rutgers, or now she decides she's looking at NYU. So she has aspirations of going to college. However, 5 times more likely to commit suicide. She was 11 years old. Me and her went on a mommy-daughter date. I can't remember. We went to Dorney Park or something. 11 years old. And we get home at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And I said, oh crap, I forgot dog food. And I said, Ally, you go in the house, let the dogs out. I'm gonna run to 7-Eleven, which is just down the block, and I'm gonna go get a bag of dog food. I walk back into my house, and what do I see? My daughter tried to hang herself at the age of 11 because she couldn't deal with it that dad and sister are dead. Mom has the chance of her cancer coming back. Last year, I had a seizure. I get now TIAs, which are very minor strokes, and she knows when they're coming on. So this girl is terrified. Terrified. If it wasn't for that man sitting right up there, my mayor, our best friend, I don't know where she'd be, because he's one of the only few, there's about 3 or 4 people that could put a smile on her face, and he is one of them. And I'm forever grateful for him. So she ended up spending 3 months in a psychiatric unit at the age of 11. So this is your legacy. So we did the legal system and having to go through that. One of the things that I decided to do, well, I didn't even decide it. I was brought in as a guest speaker. Thank you, Chief Ciani, who runs Hudson County Police Academy. I did become the New Jersey, in memory of my husband and daughter. I needed to do something, and I needed to get involved with police because now I have so much respect for them that they nailed this investigation. It was ironclad, so my love for them just became even more. He brought me in as a guest speaker, and I guess it went over so well that so many people said, sign her up for the MOI, and I'm now the first and only civilian certified police instructor in the state of New Jersey. I also became the first civilian certified state trooper instructor, and state troopers are a whole different ballgame. Is anybody related to a state trooper? That is a family like a military family. Like they don't let strangers in, but they let me in. And I get to go every class and give them a talk about doing their job and doing it to the best of their ability. Because what I understand is you might get a new recruit, right? You might get a new recruit, and you might get somebody that's about to retire but is disenfranchised in the system, the plea deals, the stuff they put on the media, cops are horrible people. So you might get that disenfranchised person telling the new recruit, so what, somebody's texting and driving, it's not worth the paperwork. No, it is. It is, because you can save a life. Additional obstacles. My husband died on a Monday. I'm a cancer survivor. That Friday, because he was dead, my insurance was gone. Gone. Don't know how I'm going to pay for the house. I can't go back to work. I have anxiety, PTSD. Then the gossiping. Anywhere, it's 9 years later, it's still 9 years later. I just sent text to the mayor about an event we went to the other day. Somebody walked up to me at this event and said, too bad you didn't die in that car with them. Or me and my daughter might be at a pizzeria and somebody will say, that's that family that lost their husband and daughter. Okay, you could say it, it's 9 years later, let's go. It's still going on. So you get talked about. Or why am I doing this? She's doing this for attention. I've been called an attention whore. Yes, I will be that attention whore every day of the week because I'm bringing attention to an epidemic that nobody wants to talk about. Because I would hate to find out that any one of you, I would hate to find out that Mayor Gallagher calls me up and says, this gentleman, what's your name in the yellow shirt? Marty? I would hate to find out the man that was sitting there listening to me, Marty died in a car crash. I would hate to get that phone call. The kids, this happened at Hanover High School. I did a presentation on that Thursday. That Sunday, Hanover girls, was it Hanover?
Whippany Park.
Whippany Park, sorry, Whippany Park. Soccer team, girls were all in the car crash. And I couldn't deal with it. Obstacles, fake fundraisers. This is what I've had to deal with for 9 years. This is what people like me, the 44 other thousand people across the United States deal with this all the time. Fake fundraisers, fake GoFundMe pages. One of my friends, who I thought was one of my best friends, she had her daughter do a lemonade stand and raise money for us. Never saw that money. Never saw it, but they just used our tragedy to gain money. So be careful with GoFundMe. Make sure it's going, you make sure you know who it is and where it's going. Again, the gossiping. So the question is, how can we combat the number of car crashes that are plaguing our roads today? Enforcing the laws. That's why I got involved with the police academies. Let's enforce the laws. There's such a bad narrative about our police. I want to make it better, so I'm getting involved with community outreach. State troopers call me up, because everything they put on, you never see on the media, you see the bad part of policing, but you never see, like, I've seen videos of, like, cops playing basketball with kids. Let's see more of that. Be the example. You leave here tonight, do not answer your phone. I hope I made a difference. I hope I make you think again. You're going out to eat after this? Make sure you have a designated driver. Be the example, because whoever is sitting in your car with you, they're going to watch what you do. He's getting his license in a month. And he just said he's got 2 younger brothers, siblings. They're going to watch everything that you do, so you have to be the example. Education. Just keep educating. Have that kitchen table talk. Have that Sunday dinner. Spaghetti and meatballs was always in my house, spaghetti and meatballs. Have that kitchen table talk with your kids. Don't let the people you make the memories with become the memories, be the change you wish to see. Simple as that. I'm going to end it on that note. Does anybody have any questions? I am an open book. I don't hide anything. So does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir. My brother-in-law.
I don't know how. Am I being heard? Yes. Yeah. I don't know how to express what courage Pam has. So my question is, how can we leave tonight? How can we leave tonight? And my brother and I went to St. Peter's Prep. We got a Jesuit education. And I don't remember the exact words that Pam mentioned was the kind of mission statement while Tim was at
Man for others.
What?
Man for others.
Man for others.
Yep.
While I was there, it was so we could become Christian culture gentlemen. My brother was all of that and more. And like I said, this is not easy. I mean, this is one night for everyone in this room. This is Pam's life, okay? Pam lives this and has lived this every day since February 22nd, 2016. And please, there were a lot of statistics and stuff, but Pam opened herself to each of us tonight to talk about the pain and the trauma that bad decisions make. And so there's an inspirational hymn that I've tried to, and I've shared this with Pam. It's called, and I urge you to look it up. It's called "Go Make a Difference." And Tim lived his life making a difference, and Pam is carrying that with her, through her, and forward. And thank you all for supporting her tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions before we get to some clash of the cannolis? Any other questions? Anything? I'm an open book. I do have I'm sorry, what?
I'd like to say a couple.
Yes.
First of all, your courage is extraordinary. The tragedies that you've overcome, and I don't think you ever overcome it, I think what you've demonstrated is the message you gave to everyone here is about as strong a delivery as anyone could ever give. And God bless you for doing that, for helping everyone else. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Can I have a hug? I want a hug for everybody, okay? Please.
From the prosecutor, that's just like...
Well, first of all, the person that caused this tragedy was a psychopath. It's clear to me in that regard. God damn him.
Yeah.
Just to bring it home a little bit, the national statistics are appalling for this type of situation, but just to bring it home a little bit, we have the 223 statistics in Essex County, excuse me, Morris County. We had 822 DUI arrests. That's a lot. We had 220 car crashes. Just this year alone, well, actually going back, say, to May, we've had 2 major crashes with fatalities involved, all DUIs. The state itself has roughly 25,000. It has on an annual basis with 228 fatals. It's outrageous. And you're right, it is an epidemic, and it has yet to be cured. Car tech has advanced. We have all types of warnings when you change lanes, pedestrian protections, everything else. The numbers haven't gone down because it's those judgmental errors of the person that gets behind the car, okay, that operates that $5,000 missile and loses control at whatever speed, from 10 miles an hour on. It doesn't change. So, this is the second time I've watched your presentation, and each time I'm completely moved by it. Because the message you're giving makes all of us, because I remember last year when I walked out of here, I said to myself, yeah, there's been these times I've been to weddings and family events and so forth, and you have a beer, or you have 2 beers, and you get in the car. But I can tell you, anyone that leaves this presentation after hearing the carnage that results to the families for some idiot's bad judgment is simply immeasurable. So, again, I just, I thank you for everything you've given to this group.
Thank you.
I know it's very meaningful. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Pam, can I say something?
Oh,
So,
sure.
I was going to tell the story.
About the dog?
I was going to tell the dog story, but I want to follow up with what the prosecutor said. I tell everybody, everything in life is a math equation. Because it really is. No matter what you're going to do, everything is based on a math equation. Okay? It's numbers. You see commercials for cars. You ever see somebody just driving normally down the road in a car for a new car commercial? For a Mercedes-Benz or BMW? You watch them weaving in and out of traffic, whipping around and parking. Those cars have 3 computers in them. They can easily be sold where you can't go above 75 miles an hour. You can govern it.
Yep.
But we don't do that. I go to Staten Island a lot to eat with my wife, because sometimes being a mayor, you need to get out of town to be able to eat with your wife.
Right that.
Forest Avenue, we go down Forest Avenue. Used to fly down Forest Avenue, cars all over the place. They got speed cameras. Everybody is doing 25 miles an hour because that speed camera is catching your license plate. New Jersey doesn't allow it.
We're working on that.
Well, I was going there. Give me time. Same thing with a red light camera. They don't allow it. Why? Because people don't want to pay the tickets. Their excuse down in Trenton is that cities are using them to do their budgets. Bullshit. You're either driving fast or going through a red light, or you're not. It's plain and simple. Why do we have right on reds? This day and age, there should be no right on red.
Yep.
A red light means stop. If you want to teach 17-year-olds how to drive, red means stop. Plain and simple. There's too many distractions between cell phones. But what did they do? They allowed marijuana to be legalized. Let's add another distraction that we can't detect. We don't know if someone's high when they're driving.
Right.
They could have smoked a joint the day before. It's still in their system. Now it's in gummies.
Yep.
Now it's in brownies. You know, you drive, how many times you're driving down the road, you can smell it coming through your car from the car next to you. But it's a math equation because they want to get the tax dollars for it. There are ways that we could start fixing this. They just refuse. How is it that cigarette companies can get sued because you got cancer? You chose to smoke. You're an adult.
Right.
But you drive a car doing 130 miles an hour. But they're not responsible for that because you're an adult. There's ways to fix this. Nobody wants to fix it. Because if you fix it, who's buying the BMW that can do 170 miles an hour? Electric vehicles are going to be more dangerous as we go forward because they're faster than the car engines.
They're even worse. They're even worse for the firefighters because they just have to let them burn out.
Yeah, but I'm not even going there. What I'm trying to say is that there's too many distractions that we are not paying attention to straighten out our laws so that we protect each other and protect the people who are doing the right thing on the roads. The high-velocity vehicles, you know, that's, you were calling them. It's crazy.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Could I just maybe add something to your remarks, Mayor? Once there during your words, you said they. They are in Trenton. Yes, they are. But we have the responsibility. Everyone in this room.
We put them in Trenton, yes.
Exactly. We will choose the people that represent us to protect us. We will do that. You know, we can complain all we want about them, but we have the responsibility.
Right.
And I will say this, what he's saying is true, but again, it's going to go back to the math equation.
Yep.
It's all about money.
It's follow the money.
It's all about money. It's never going to work because they're never going to pass the laws.
Right.
Because there are people with more money than we have that don't give a damn about Pam's story.
Right.
They don't care. There's ways to fix this, and nobody is talking about it.
Yep.
But we will figure out how to make it easier for the person who causes the accident and causes the pain to make sure that they don't spend that 30 years in jail. That's where we all need to start coming together as one, and we all need to start talking. And we all need to be heard. Because if you stand together and fight it, someone's going to listen. That's all I have to say.
Great. Sure.
Thank you, Mayor.
I don't think it's only the fifth car, and it's people in general.
Yes.
It's me first, get out of my way.
Yep.
And people have to learn how to drive responsibly.
Exactly.
From a 17-year-old to a 70-year-old.
Absolutely.
People have no respect for
None.
other people on the road.
None whatsoever, none. I will say this, going back to, just to bring this up, I don't know if anybody really pays attention. I have been involved for the last 2 years. If you ever notice, sometimes there might be, somebody that knows somebody that's a senator or an assemblyman and they die and they have, a law passed in memory of, let's say, Julie. Many people have asked me, how come there's no law about Tim and Bridget? Listen, our officers have enough laws that they have to abide by to begin with. I don't want to add to that. Would it be nice to have a law in memory of my husband and daughter, but I don't need it. I don't need it, and the reason why I don't need it is because I go down to Trenton and I fight, and on January 13th, this is something else that I'm super proud of, and I don't know if any of you know about it. January 13th. Hi, Bill. Oh, my God. Okay, let me just finish, and then we'll get to you. Oh, my God. So, I'm dumbfounded. January 13th, and the only way I can describe it is New Jersey is the first state to have a Target Zero Commission. The first state, and the only way, if you're going to ask me, well, what's a commission? Does that change a law? It doesn't change a law, but for those of you that remember 9/11, when that happened, what did we find out a couple days after that? FBI had information, CIA had information, Secret Service had information, but none of them spoke to each other and none of them talked to each other and shared the info. 9/11 could have been stopped, but everybody wanted to be the hero. But look at what happened. There were no, other than our first responders were heroes. So January, for 2 years, this is how hard it is. 2 years, all we wanted was a group of people, and we have formed the Target Zero Commission, and it took us 2 years to do it. Just to have both sides of the fence, have a meeting once a month, and this was where I was voted. We wanted a civilian to be on the commission, and it wasn't just my foundation. It was work with many advocates all over New Jersey. We all got together. There's no competition for us. We all worked together to save lives, and they were saying, well, we want a civilian on the commission. I was voted to be on that commission as a civilian. However, the commission, the senators and the congressmen said that we don't want a civilian on it, but I was voted to be on it because I'm not quiet. And if I have to be rude, I'm going to be rude, and I'm going to hold you to task. If I voted for you and you did something wrong, I'm going to hold you to task. So on January 13th, something I'm super proud of, we as a state of New Jersey have the very first commission where all 13 government agencies in the state of New Jersey have to have a meeting once a month with us advocates and talk about data, talk about infrastructure, where a bridge might be falling or causing a car crash, or there needs to be a red light on a certain street, or a ramp needs to be fixed, or anything like that. So all 13 government agencies have to talk to each other, share information, and we made that happen, and we are the first state in the nation to have that. So it's something that I'm super proud of. But it's not just me. It's like we need you to stick, say if somebody that you voted for isn't doing the right thing. When we voted for legalization of marijuana, they put the cart before the horse because there's a breathalyzer. We can figure out their alcohol level, but there's nothing, actually there is, if you go on LinkedIn, there's companies out there that have all these things to figure out marijuana. But it's going to be which company is going to give a certain senator the most money. You got to follow the money. It's all about the money grab. And talking about money grabs, when you see around the holidays, Rich, what was it called when you stop in to get people a DUI check, DWI check, sobriety check, and you're coming up and you got to check, and you see all over social media, oh, that's just a money grab. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's to save lives. I've been in it. Bayonne police have let me watch it. I went down to Atlantic City and I actually put on a bulletproof vest and I went on a ride along with them to pull over cars going too fast, and they don't do that anymore. You guys don't allow ride-alongs anymore. Atlantic City did let me, so I did it, and I got to be honest with you, I was like, oh, I hope something good happens, like something interesting. Not that anybody gets hurt, but, so we did the ride-along, But I am heavily involved with all of this. I'm getting more and more involved with going to Trenton, talking to our senators, congressmen. I can't tell you how many times. They just did a story that they put out there on me. But we have to hold our who you vote for to task. When they legalized marijuana, I went down the list of the people that, and one of them, who is no longer an assemblyman, you know who I'm talking about, Mayor Davis, one of them stood at my daughter's casket, cried over her, and said to me, Pam, I will do whatever I can to help you. Okay. All right, you're an assemblyman, you're going to help me. He voted yes to this legalization of marijuana. And I called him up and I said, why did you do this? And his response to me was, because we had to beat New York. Oh, okay, so what are you helping me with? What did you help me with? Well, next thing you know, he got voted out because he sucked as an assemblyman. So I pulled no punches. So he's gone, and now we have to worry about who else is taking over Trenton, and we have to make sure we hold them to task. If there's something wrong, going on Facebook and complaining about it, that's not going to do anything. You don't. None of these people sit there and read Facebook. Get out, go to your council meetings, go down to Trenton, go to Washington, whatever you have to do. Make a phone call, leave an email. Bill Spadia's 101.5, and something happens in a car crash, and he'll text me and be like, Pam, can you call the radio show, and let's talk about this crash. So I guess we have some sort of good relationship like that. And, but we can't do it all. I'm only one person. I'm only one person. I'm a mom and pop nonprofit. Like, I rely on donations. I don't have big sponsors. So I just want to thank you all for listening to me. If you got anything out of it, I hope you did. I hope it made you think about what you're going to do when you leave here, get in your car, because we're all in here safe. The minute you get out there, though, there's somebody that's going to leave a bar right now and probably is going to be drunk. Or somebody smoking weed, and at the end of the day, if it makes you feel different, it's going to make you drive different. So let's remember that, and let's remember, everybody, your families are watching how you drive. If you're that person that uses your phone and drives, everybody else in your family is going to drive. Text and drive and be distracted. So yes?
Before you close, I just want to thank you for your courage. And I want you to know, from our family, Tim, Bridget, we're very, very proud of you.
Those are big shoes to fill, because I just want, yes?
I just wanted to thank you for everything that you're doing, and thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
That has to be incredibly hard to hear.
But believe it or not, it's been 9 years, and it's actually become very therapeutic for me. It's the only way I know how to grieve, is by going out and talking about it. And you guys have just let me have like a therapy session tonight. Thank you, Mayor Gallagher and everybody else. So I am available. There are flyers out there and business cards. I go to schools all over. I go to corporate companies. I go to church groups. Hell, I will go to your house and sit down and have that kitchen table dinner with your kids if you want. I'm willing to do it. We are having an event on April 10th honoring first responders. There's a flyer out there for that, so if you want to come or donate or do something, we could use it, because I can't keep doing this without the help of everybody else. So thank you so much again for having me.
Before we have our closing comments, and then we have a very special announcement to make about a very big event coming up in about 10 minutes. The tables are turned right now with New Jersey 101.5 Bill Spady in the room, because Mayor Taylor, stage left to me, has been on the radio plenty, and I've been on the radio a couple times, and what Bill has always done is give us a very, very tight window, which is very, very difficult. especially for people like us that talk a lot.
Yes.
I just want to thank Bill Spadia for introducing me and us to Pam O'Donnell. We never would have known about you and Catch You Later if it wasn't for Bill Spadia being at a law enforcement night and telling me he was going to Bayonne. And I was a little bit taken back that Bill was going to my hometown for a big event and I didn't know about it. Bill Spadia, you have 3 minutes.
You do 3 minutes.
He doesn't give you 3 minutes.
Can we hear it from Pam?
Oh, here you go.
Wow.
What amazing courage to be able to take such a horrific tragedy and turn it into something positive and educational and inspiring for so many people. So Pam, God bless you. Thank you. I am so blessed. And all the mayors here, Mayor Gallagher, thank you for inviting me, and you guys are both great on the radio. Yes, you were. Mayor Davis said something really interesting about and actually this gentleman back here said something interesting about personal responsibility and teaching kids and consequences. And I've done a lot of conversations over the years and had a lot of conversations over the years about how kids today are taught that there's no winning and losing. We have this everybody wins mentality where everyone gets a trophy, you participate. Well, the challenge is that there are winners and losers. And if you make bad decisions, you might lose. And in the case of driving 80 miles an hour down the highway and not paying attention to being on your phone, you might lose your life. And we don't teach enough of that. I think that you can't just get to a point where we're teaching children about the dire consequences. You have to start much younger. You know, we've all seen the car wrecks that they put on the high school lawn, and all the kids see it, and they say, wow, don't get drunk on prom night and drive home. But it's really late in the game by the time we're trying to scare kids then. Yep. We need to teach them winning and losing and consequences when they're much, much younger. But that's an important point. There were a lot of politicians that made a lot of hay over stopping it here. We stopped the red light cameras, and the reason they stopped the red light cameras is that, well, the camera technology doesn't know if you're making a right on red, which is a legal turn. So they scrapped the entire program. And now you've got to have law enforcement out there patrolling to make sure people are following the traffic laws. In New York City, at the schools, they have speed cameras. And guess what everybody does in the school zone? They drive 15 miles an hour to make sure that the kids don't get hit by a car coming by. It is a learned behavior that you can control. And what we have to do is take the politics out of it. But I am here to show my support for Pam and her strength and these mayors and police officers and community leaders, because it doesn't matter what party you are. Yep. Both parties have led us down this bad path in this state, and we got to get it back. And the only way we get it back is we come together like this as a community. So thank you all for being here, and God bless you. Thank you, Mayor Gallagher.
I think that was only 4 minutes.
Thank you.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, we're just going to take a minute. I'm going to ask each person on the panel to close us out, starting with Chief Ralph. 60 seconds or less each person.
Okay, real quick, this is my 9th privilege to sit through Pam's presentations, and it's just dynamic each and every time. At the Academy, we're approaching these issues that were discussed tonight from an educational standpoint, but more importantly, from an enforcement standpoint with these new trainees, again, enlightening them to how important it is to take the proper lawful action. And again, the learned behavior needs to be changed. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Chief. Prosecutor?
Yeah, I don't want to be repetitive, but you know what I'm going to try to do, Pam? We do sobriety checkpoints in the county, and I'm going to see if the next one can be named in the honor of Tim and Bridget. Okay? It's the least we can do for the courage you've shown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sergeant Kilmer.
I'll be short too. Pam, it was great to see your presentation again. This is my second time, and it truly is impacting. I think a lot of people think, as we all may have made these decisions in our life, well, it's not going to be me, it's not going to happen to me. Well, we have somebody in this room that it did happen to her, okay? I know for a fact after watching your last presentation and after watching this one, it's going to make me a better police officer, be more aware of these kind of issues, and I just thank you for everything. And like Pam mentioned before, I actually have the honor to say, she does really give back to the first responders. My wife is actually being honored at her event in next month. So she's a sergeant with Bayonne Police Department also.
Yes.
Thanks for
Tracy.
Pam, thank you for sharing your story. You're a true inspiration. We've heard the word courage used so many times today, tonight during this presentation, and you truly are the definition of courage.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thanks for having me here. Pam, I just want to say thank you. This is the second time I've heard this presentation, and I did, which I think is the point. I went out and told as many people as I could about what you went through, because it was so impactful. So I think that's something we can all do. So we're all with you here, and I want to also thank you for being an attention getter, because that's really what it's all about.
Chief Jack Ambrose.
Thanks, Ace. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everybody for coming tonight. Pam is courageous. You are the definition of courageous. We have this conglomeration. We continue to work together. Pam said it. Let's change behavior. Let's go out there and let's change behavior. And let's try and make our roads safer. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Davis.
So everybody says Pam is courageous. I've pretty much known Pam my whole life, and I could tell a story right now just to prove to you that it's not really courageous, because she's been like that her whole life. She just wants everyone to understand what your consequences are when you get in that vehicle, and what your responsibility is, because that's what it comes down to. It's all about the choice you make. Don't get in that car if you've been drinking or doing anything. Don't reach for that phone, because the consequences are dire. But as far as courageous, yes, but she's been like that her whole life. If you give me 2 minutes, I'll tell a quick story.
I was going to ask you to tell a story.
So,
Only two?
I could, yeah. I've known Pam pretty much because I grew up with her sister, graduated grammar school, high school with her sister. Pam was always the little snot-nosed kid in the background, being a pain in the neck as she is. So one day, my wife is, I think, 6 months pregnant. And she's bringing, we have an 8-month-old yellow lab. She's bringing him to the dog park. My wife comes home like an hour later, crazy. In fact, like nuts. And she's trying to tell me this story about how the dog, our puppy, ran into the bay to chase 2 other dogs that were swimming in the bay, because the park is right by the bay, Kill Van Kull. And he started drowning. Now, my wife is 6-7 months pregnant. She can't go in the water. Certainly not in Bayonne. You don't go in the Kill Van Kull. She goes, and this blonde lady just jumped in the bay, swam out, grabbed Bailey, which was my puppy's name, and brought him back to shore. And I looked at her. Now, they had never met.
Never met her.
And I said, was this blonde lady, like, loud? And she said, yes. I said, was her name Pam? She goes, yeah, how do you know that? I go, because it's Pam Starita, because that's the only Pam I know that would have jumped into the Kill Van Kull to save an 8-month-old dog. And it's true, I called her right up, and I go, Pam, did you just save a dog down First Street Park? And she said, yes. I said, well, that was my dog. And she just laughed and said, you're kidding me, that was your wife? I said, yes. So she's been courageous her whole life. But she does this because she just wants to change your mind and your way of thinking, because there are consequences. Thank you.
He still owes me a cell phone, too. I jumped in to save his dog with my brand-new cell phone, forgetting I had it in my pocket. And it's been almost,
Well, Josh is 18 now.
so 18 years, he's yet to give me a phone.
Mayor Taylor.
Pam, for it not a tragedy, I would not have met a friend that you are, and all that you do to come out to tell all these folks about your story. It's really enlightening, and each time I think I get something different from this. So, it's very emotional to see you, to hear you, and to know that you wear this every single day. But don't worry, because this legislator in the state of New Jersey is going to make this town into a city before you know it. So, by building low-income housing everywhere. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Tim Dougherty.
I gotta follow Mayor Taylor. There's not a lot I can say. This is the second time I've heard this presentation. What really I find to be important, and I'm going to read something that was sent to me a few days ago when I was in Georgia, is that there's a couple of young hockey players over here, and got a special place for hockey players. I worked for the New Jersey Devils for quite a few years. So you guys are going away and you're going to be able to tell this story to a lot of young people. And I think that's an important factor in what we're hearing today. And I'm looking forward to you coming to Morristown and Morris Township in May. So we're really looking forward to that, because it's really important that this continues. And my hat's off to this crew that's up here, the prosecutor, chief, police officers, and our pastor, and everybody that comes up in this bipartisan way of how important this is for everybody, because it affects us all off that. But let me read this, because you touched on something today that this plays into. So I sent a picture when I was in Hiwassee, Georgia last week, of a beautiful sunset to one of my younger sisters. And she goes, "Wow, it's beautiful." And I said, "Yeah, I'm in the Appalachian Mountains." So she thought I was in the Adirondacks. And she goes, "Isn't it kind of cold to be fishing up in the Adirondacks?" And I go, "No, I'm in the Appalachian Mountains." Oh, she goes, "I'm sorry." And this is what she said. "Well, I thought you said Adirondack Mountains. This is what happens when my brain, since I've been up since 4:15 a.m. I realize now my friend's daughter was killed in a car accident Friday night. And my brain is mush, and it's been hard to focus and concentrate. It's awful. She and her twin and her boyfriend were killed on impact, and her boyfriend twin and her boyfriend in the back seat were airlifted to Jersey Shore. They were 3 minutes from home, coming from a Devils game. This just happened last week. I can't even imagine. Michael was the best friends with the brother. An unlicensed 17-year-old driving his friend's BMW over 100 miles per hour ran a red light. Cops clocked him going over the Seaside Bridge at 118 miles per hour up and down Route 35. I can't even tell you how much I wish I was away in the mountains. So this just happened last week. So it's what we heard here. What we heard here is what we hear continuously.
And it just happened near your house, right?
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's the story.
I have a house in Seaside Park.
Yeah. And that was my sister, who's a guidance counselor
Yeah.
in South Jersey. So thank you for what you bring to this, and I know sharing your tragedy. I don't know how you do it, but God bless you that you have the strength and that it's therapeutic for you, that you find the strength to be able to do this, because it touches on all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Jason Clark.
So I know I'm standing between this and a major announcement, so we're going to make this short. So
Major announcement.
the pastor said earlier at the very beginning, he talked about marching and getting to a destination. And we've certainly learned another meaning of getting to a destination. Pam is a hero, very courageous, we've all heard that, but the parents and the kids that are here tonight are really the heroes, because you're going to bring this message back to your friends, to the rest of your families, to a hockey game, to a party, and this is going to click when you're in a bad situation. Everybody gets in bad situations, but it's how you get out of the bad situation and the decision that you make. So I really commend the parents and the kids that are here and the ones that are watching on TV, and I hope this message gets out. This is what this group does. This is my third one that I've heard Pam speak and been on the dais with the rest of this group, and every time you get something more out of it, and it's emotional no matter how many times you hear it. And, the message is strong and it's real. So take this back to whoever you know and let them watch the video and hear the story. So thank you again. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you, sir. Pastor.
Pam, it's my first time hearing the presentation, and to say that I was moved, blown away. I mean, I think everyone has expressed all of those emotions, but just to share a pastor's perspective, you know, there's a place in the Bible, in the book of James, that says, "Be you hearers," not just hearers of the word, but doers also. So often, this kind of thing, people can come in and they can hear, and yeah, we'll be affected, but you know, you walk away and the doing part is lacking. And I just want to thank you, because the courage that you've shown, the way that you're not just doing this one day, but you're doing it every day of your life. You're taking something that could easily just be taught, and you're demonstrating the doing. I think it's the doing that's going to make the difference and will motivate not just the folks on this panel and people in the room, but all of those who will hear the message to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd just like to thank, there's a lot of people to thank. I want to thank Krista DiGiorgio. Krista, thank you very much. You really did a great job in making this possible tonight. Denise Brennan, you were fantastic. Thank you. And I have 3 of my 4 colleagues that serve on the governing body with me in Hanover Township that are very, very involved in this type of initiative every day of the week, for real. Michael Mahalko, Ron Francioli, John Faramasca, thank you very much. And we don't do very much without Brian Ferran, our superintendent of DPW, right there too, so thank you, man. You know, with our group, I say we are public servants. We're not, I don't believe we're politicians. We're public servants, and we serve every day. And we don't ask for a lot, but I'm going to ask for something here. There's a lot of people in this room, and most of you were invited, that have the opportunity, the clout, and the contacts to have Pam come in and speak to a group. Whether it's a church, whether it's a sporting group, whether it's at a gym, whether it's at a school. And I know our superintendent, Maria Carroll, is here, and Maria Carroll had Pam at both our high schools. We have sister high schools, Hanover Park and Whippany Park. Tommy Levis, Hall of Fame coach right there. He preaches this with us and tries to help as many people as he can. So please, from tonight, we're going to have the video available shortly. I would ask to please make a phone call. Try to book Pam to come speak to people. Everybody that hears this is going to walk away and say, holy smokes, I'm the luckiest person in the whole world. It could have been me, could have been my brother, could have been my family. And with Mayor Taylor sitting right next to me, there was an accident in Florham Park last week where the guy was going 100 miles an hour. Is that correct, Martin?
Yes.
I said, my daughter and my wife drive on that road all the time. How do you defend yourself against somebody going 100 miles an hour being chased by the police? By the grace of God, we're okay, but by the grace of God. And Prosecutor Carroll, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you and what you do every day and the strength you have representing us. So thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Pam, you know you are my Hudson County sister. We love you guys. I love going to Bayonne. I love having you come here. Pam, God bless you. Thank you. And we're always here for you, and I know you're always there for us.
I have an extended family here, so thank you.